From Nashville, Tennessee, Music City, USA, and the home of hot chicken, it's the Rick Altizer Show. Sit back, buckle up. Rick will talk with the movers, shakers, and creators who put Christ in Christian entertainment. He's a man who's clear so the world can hear. Here's Rick Altizer.
Hey, thanks for joining me today. Today is part 2 of my interview with film director Eric Welch. Eric, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Glad to be here. Good to be back.
Yes. Last week, we talked about his new movie that is still in theaters, came out last week. It's called Beautifully Broken, in a theater near you. And you can check that interview out by going to my website, rickaltizer.com, or you can go check out my podcast, the Rick Altizer Show podcast. It'll be on there. So, Eric, we talked last week about the movie Beautifully Broken, and I'll kind of just give a little recap for those who might have missed that. Beautifully Broken is a wonderful true story about three different storylines, but one family's here in the States, in Nashville, and there's a family in Rwanda that was part of the tribal warfare there, where 800,000 people were killed. And how these two stories, through Compassion International, they intersect, these families intersect, and it's just a beautiful story of forgiveness, redemption, something I encourage people to see. I enjoyed it. Saw it with my mom. She was in town visiting, and so she was able to sit through it. It wasn't too violent or whatever, so she was able to get through it. It is PG-13. I'm kind of giving a quick update of what we did last week.
Totally, yeah.
But it's just an amazing story, and I recommend you go see it. So before we go further, where can we find out more info about the movie online?
Well, you can go online, look at beautifullybrokenmovie.com. Obviously, we have Facebook as well. You can go to beautifullybrokenmovie.com, connect to our Facebook, our Instagram, our Twitter. It has a list of theaters in your area that you can search by either zip code or state. We have trailers there. Michael W. Smith has a testimonial. Toby Mac has a testimonial. CeCe Winans. You can kind of hear from them and get their spin on the film and just kind of, what's moving in the movie to them. And that's the best place to go. That's where the powerhouse of media is.
Beautifully-broken-movie.com.
Yes, sir.
So the name of the movie is Beautifully Broken, but the movie itself isn't beautifully broken, or it's Beautifully Broken Movie.
Right, there you go.
Unfortunate.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the title. How'd they get the title?
Well, I think it's the idea that, in some way, everyone is broken in some way. Everyone has some kind of story or past or challenge that they've been through that has hurt, scarred, and left you in a way that some would consider broken or wounded. And somehow, through faith, through the stories of sharing your story with other people, confessing to one another, God can take those scars and those stories that you would look at as negative or hurtful and turn them into something beautiful, and also something that can minister and heal other people when you allow God to heal you and share your pain with other people.
I came through in the movie. You really saw that. Even in the wealthy family from Nashville, which you think have it all together, there's pain there that I thought the way you handled that was real well done. So what do you like about movie making? What do you like about making movies?
Just to follow up, the film is beautiful about that. Like, one of the things that William, one of the lead characters, shares is just because you see no tears doesn't mean the person hasn't cried. We all assume because people's Facebook posts are amazing and they're skiing or vacationing that they don't have trauma or challenges in their lives, but they do, but people just don't share them. And when we can actually find healing and forgiveness as we share our stories, and that's really what the film captures fairly well.
What do you like about making movies?
That's tough, man, because coming from music videos and short formats, it's just like you're in and done,
How many music videos have you done?
Oh, man, dude, I lost count after around 200, between live concerts, music videos. I've done a lot of stuff.
Started out with DC Talk,
and then worked with Toby Mac a lot. I've worked with Carrie Underwood, Kid Rock, done live concerts, acoustic programs for several networks.
It's a lot of music.
Man, and I love it. I always enjoyed it. I'm a musician, so I loved it. I enjoyed it.
Toby Mac's in the film.
Yep, Toby Mac's in the film. Michael W. Smith is in the film. And Caitlin, who's also a musician, is in the film. So we have a lot of music influence. And then the song Beautifully Broken is recorded by Plum and also by John Barry, who did a country version. Plum did kind of a pop thing, and John did a country. And then CeCe Winans just blows it out with a gospel celebratory ending song. So there's 3 different versions of the same song, which is pretty incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as the credits roll, you hear those songs.
You hear all 3 of them. Yeah, it's kind of cool.
So, I mean, what do you like about what aspect of movie making do you like?
It's funny because, shooting is like the least, the part that I like the least. The scripting is fun, and trying to, how does this all connect? And yeah, this is cool and make this work and that stuff. And the editing, it's a love-hate thing with editing. I tell people all the time, I'm an okay director, but I'm a great editor, so I can fix anything that that I mess up, So I kind of enjoy that process. But man, in the film, honestly, one of the things that I was the most excited about was scoring. Is talking to a composer and saying, obviously when we cut the rough cut together, we took temp tracks, Gladiator and Batman, and you put the music in there. This is the kind of feel I want for the scene, and that's a little bit of a problem because you get used to hearing that music. So when you go into the composer, you say, look, so this is the template idea that I had. Let's create something. Like it was important to me that every character, I'm kind of old school, and every character has their own melody. And when you hear the score, William has his melody, which we wanted to be structural, wise. This is your rock, And then, Emily, her that's her real name. The character is Andrea. She has kind of her melody. And then also Randy has his melody. And so that was fun. I mean, I enjoyed that part of it, Star Wars was a movie about robots and weird guys until John Williams put this score in there. There's now it's classic. So that part of it excited me because you just see your film coming to life and ideas you had in the temp music. When you open, that's one of the things that kind of got to be a challenge in music videos. When the budgets really dropped, I started shooting a lot of my own stuff and obviously editing my own stuff and sometimes even coloring it. But when you have other people in the process, you open yourself up to other people's creativity. And working with the composer, he's like, yeah, I like what you did there. And they give you that kind of, that works. And then they go do their thing and come back with something like, oh, wow, I never thought of it that way. I never saw the scene that way. But when you made this little shift, it brings it into the character. And there's so many things, there's so many scenes where the sounds, not even the music, but some of the sounds that he used just carry an emotion. And that was one of my favorite parts because it really brought the film to life.
That's awesome. I like the storytelling aspect. For me, I love to tell a story.
Yeah.
So I like, how to craft the story and how to, I have done some things with some, film classes with students, and I tell them the 3 most important things to remember about filmmaking are story, and story. So,
Well, see, you're a purist and you're a purist. I'm more of a realist. I say that the most important thing in your project is hair, makeup, and wardrobe. Because rarely do I have an artist come back and say, I hated that idea. No, they come back like, why did I wear those red pants?
Especially with music videos,
Absolutely,
right?
man.
Hair, makeup, and wardrobe.
And then I tell students, I said, those are the most important things. You think it's lighting, you think it's your concept and your amazing directorial stuff, but it's hair, makeup, and wardrobe, man. And then the other thing is the classes you need to take, you need to take psychology and political science because directing is really trying to get someone to understand what's important in a scene. And then hearing their ideas, and sometimes when they're not great, trying to take their input, not crush their spirit, and still shift it into a way that it's going to work for the overall picture. And that, man, that's the hardest lesson to learn.
It's working with actors, they're fragile, and musicians, they're fragile egos. And so you have to be encouraging and tell them, so when you're telling them you don't like what they've just done, right? you sang out of tune, or you I don't like what you just
Yeah,
did,
yeah, yeah.
right? You can't say it like that.
Right.
You have to be encouraged. That was so full of emotion.
Yeah.
I just love how you blah, blah.
It just depends, man.
But if you just change this one little thing, I think that would even make it
Yeah.
I mean, it's so weird how you have to do it.
Well, that's one of the nicknames that I got was from one of the actors, and she kept, she did really well, and she would call it. I said, she was, how was it? I'm like, perfect. And so she's just like, okay, but when you get, I'm not going to move on unless I got what I need,
Right.
But man, then there's other people, working with Toby, man, like with Toby, he's pretty cut and dry. He's like, you don't have to massage him too much. It's like, it's because you use that kind of diplomatic talk. He goes, okay, so you didn't like it.
It was perfect. It was just one little thing. Okay, so you didn't like it.
You didn't like it. Okay, so okay, I got what you're saying. What I mean? He's pretty direct, man. The guy's a pro. That's what I love about him.
Well, we're jawing here with just kind of director talk. This is the Rick Altizer Show, and I'm talking with film director Eric Welch. We're talking about his new movie, Beautifully Broken, in theaters right now. And so you've done all these music videos, and the budgets, the music industry is kind of, since 2008, kind of been doing a steady tank. And so I know the budgets and what they're selling and how they make money. I was reading something, Eric Carmen was talking about this song he had called All By Myself. He had almost 1 million listens, and he got $42 on Spotify. Almost 1 million plays, and he got $42. So the money's gone, whereas before, that on Airplay or whatever, you'd make hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Well, VH1 is full of behind the music stories of how people got huge and lost all their money because of accountants. But now the story is just like, YouTube killed the radio star, or whatever you want to call the metaphor you may have. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's changed a lot. And so I think that's, the same thing could easily come in the film world. And, it's what we talked about in the last episode, how important it is to get behind films of faith and really support the community. We use that word a lot.
That means go buy a ticket. That's what that means. Get behind. I'm going to interpret that. Get behind the film. Support. That means go to the movie theater tonight and buy a ticket to Beautifully Broken. That's what that means.
That is, yes, in a micro. But also, looking larger, like we talked about as well. There are several movies coming out this fall that we need to get behind and we need to believe in and support them so that our community grows. And we can start making diverse and different types of films within this genre.
Especially on October 30th.
Yes.
When the Russ Taff I Still Believe movie comes into theaters.
Which is going to be awesome. Can't wait to see it. Love Russ Taff. So
I can't wait to finish it.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that journey. I'm really looking forward to that journey.
So then the budgets, dwindle away on music budgets. So you're used to making these music videos for one kind of budget. And then now all of a sudden you have to reinvent yourself to another kind of budget. Did that, getting lean and mean, knowing how to make videos, did that help when it came time to making a movie that didn't have a $5 million budget?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it was interesting because the director photographer and I, I worked with a diverse crew in the different countries that we went to, obviously America and Louisiana, but then also going to South Africa. And I think a key important thing to me was have the director of photography that I knew and I had a shorthand with that I didn't have to get in the weeds with and trying to explain. Because, film is like making a movie is like going to war. You have an army of people and you're leading this army of people to get an objective done. It's not as massive, I get that, but I'm just saying it's a parallel in some ways. So the director of photography and I had done, Colton Dixon videos, Carrie Underwood, Kid Rock, so we had a familiarity. And so working with him was great because we could literally craft the film the way we wanted to and take it in that direction. And we just had a shorthand. We could work with each other. I forgot the question.
Was he the same? Did you bring him to South Africa?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
South Africa as well.
Yeah.
So he was the help. Who's the director of photography on that?
James King.
Okay, James King.
Yep.
And so you had him both here in Louisiana and in South Africa.
So he and I working together. That was, I think the original question was coming out of music video, right?
Coming out of music video, the budget's getting smaller, and you're trying to make a movie,
right?
And you're trying to compete with Mission Impossible, $400 million budget or whatever.
Oh, so yeah, it's the gorillaness of it. Sorry, got on a little tangent there. So James and I had done so many things together that, he's great. Like, there's a hierarchy in filmmaking, and you don't do this, you don't do that. And man, we just shot through some of that stuff. And that was a little bit of a challenge with some of the crew that we'd work with. He and I developed a little thing. Like, our assistant director was very structured. You'll roll sound, you'll roll the camera, and you'll slate it. And that just took forever sometimes. So sometimes I would go up to the assistant director and distract him, and James would take the actor and just get some quick B-roll shots. Like, there's a letter writing scene with one of the girls, and we got several angles of that. Well, I was distracting the assistant director while he was just grabbing these quick B-roll shots, because, sometimes we just we get things in the music video world, you grab it quick, because you only have a day to shoot a whole music video. And that was a little bit of a challenge and a different thing. So having a partner in crime with that, we could get a few shots off that we wouldn't normally get.
What'd you shoot it on?
Shot on Red camera.
Red?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't know what it was.
Yep, the Red Epic, and there's so many different versions of that camera.
Right,
Epic Dragon, Epic Kraken, I don't know.
Who knows?
Yeah, it was a red one, though.
It was red, though. It was a red camera.
There were lenses on it, and we shot on it.
We could have got a red camera or a blue camera. We liked red. We just thought it had more energy to it.
Blood of Jesus.
So, in making your movie, how explicit do you want to be saying Jesus?
Well, that's a tough call. I think we set out to make a film. The executive producer says this all the time. We set out to make a movie for the congregation, not for the choir. And I don't ever, want to be ashamed of using Jesus' name. God has done so much in my life. I would never want to feel that way. But we tried to make a film that had the heart of Christ in it. And we say Jesus in it. One person came up, you don't even say Jesus in the movie. Well, we do. It's there. And that's a litmus test for some people, and Jesus talked in parables. Jesus told people stories.
What's the story? Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like sometimes to get the truth across, you just pray that God will breathe life into the story. And well, first you'll pray that God has the story and it's his story, and that you don't get in the way, and that you allow God to breathe through what you're doing and get out of the way. And I pray that in so many videos, but especially this film. And so, that is a tough one in films, because there's you have to walk this line of making sure that people who are in the faith know what you're doing, and you're not doing something that's hokey and a bumper sticker and turning other people off. And I think, I know the Christian community quotes Bono all the time, but one of the most profound things that he said was, our music is like the early Christians drawing the fish in the sand, the little ichthus. One would come up and make half of the crescent moon thing, and the other would complete it to make the fish. And to Christians, that meant the world. That meant that there's someone that I can identify with and connect to. But to other people who didn't know what it meant, it was just a piece of art. And I think that's what drives me, because I want to create things. Like, somebody told me that they were taking an atheist to this film because they felt like it was an approachable, real story that they could connect them to the gospel in some way. And I'm like, great. Because there are movies out there that are 200% red meat, right down the mainstream of what you would want to hear in a click faith-based movie. We wanted to make something that had a little edge to it, that also showed God working in people's lives in an amazing way. But
the message of redemption is very powerful. I'm not going to give away or anything what happens in it, but it's a very powerful message.
When you see the final scene with the redemption and forgiveness in that final scene, there's no question where this is coming from. And you're right. I don't want to give it away either.
No, there's no question.
There's no question.
So working with you had Toby Mac in there doing his live performance thing. So, you had Toby doing what he did. Yeah. Stand up there and singing and dancing and whatever. So working with actors, which is different from working with singers who are all of a sudden now I've got to be an actor.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
but working with actual actors who are
Right.
used to acting. So now you're directing something totally different. So talk about the difference between directing actors and directing music videos.
Sure. Well, there's a large difference. Obviously, a music video is, you've already got someone's music. And my goal when I worked in a church and worked in ministry, when I work in music, has always been to convey the heart of the person in that ministry. And that's my prayer going into every one of them. Like, God, I want to use the skills you've given me, but I want it to reflect their ministry, what they're about, because that's my job. That really is my job. And so in the music world, I'm putting my finger painting on someone else's Picasso song. You know what I mean? Because, but the difference really is that, in music world, you're looking at the visuals. It's all about the visuals. What's their facial expression? What's their body language? You're putting that on top of another piece of art in a shot that usually will last 3 to 5 seconds, usually.
But they have to look cool.
It has to work. It has to work. And so, in a film, you're looking at a scene and how do these actors say their lines? What are their lines? What do they say in between the lines? What do they do with their body language? And does it make sense in that scene and in the integrity of that scene? But then in the larger stretch of an hour and a half, what does the mood of that play into the larger narrative? And then, like I said before, dummy me, I picked 3 storylines that all intersect. And so then you're looking at, okay, I've got to figure out, does this affect the other storyline, and make sure you have this prop in it so that later it connects to this thread, and, all
Right.
these
Gotta
things
think ahead.
weave together the tapestry that you can't mess up at the foundation.
You're listening to the Rick Altizer Show. And my guest today is director Eric Welch, talking about his new movie, Beautifully Broken, in theaters now. And so any actors more difficult to work with than others? What happens when you get that? How do you navigate that?
It goes back to that psychology thing. It goes back to the psychology
Got to
thing.
outsmart them.
Well, you just have to be, I'm a very collaborative person. I like to hear other people's opinions. It doesn't matter who it is on the set. They can have a good idea. And if you're a wise leader, you'll hire people smarter than you and not be intimidated by that. Which is a challenge sometimes. That really is a challenge. And working with actors who had done films before, that was a little bit of a challenge, because they don't know you. I mean, the assistant director the first day came to me and said, "Now you do know what crossing the line means, right?" You know what I mean? I'm like, "Yes, I understand the technical term and what the implications are." So they don't know. Because you're a first-time director, you don't know anything. So, and I understand why they think that. So when it came to approaching the actors, yeah, I mean, I would say by and large they were all pleasant to work with. There are some times where they had ideas that I didn't think would work. And the thing about it is you have to, you have to get what you need. That's the most important thing, and not crush someone's spirit when they come to you with an idea, because if you do, they won't come to you again. Mm-hmm. And it's that psychology thing. It's trying what they think, trying what you think, and then seeing what works.
Yeah, I used to be a music producer. I produced, and it was interesting how directing and producing are the same skill set.
Yeah.
I interviewed Steve Taylor, and he was a music producer. Then
Absolutely.
transferred into a film director.
Yeah.
And it's the same skill set.
Yeah.
But I had a guy once who wouldn't like any idea I had. It had to be his idea, or he
Yeah.
wouldn't like it.
Yeah, totally.
So, but I called him lunkhead, which is a terrible thing to say. I referred to him as lunkhead, but and it was always behind his back. So it was terrible. I'm just
You
awful.
are a horrible person.
But but you could easily outsmart him. You could go, "Oh, I know what you mean. What you're saying is, if we drop the kick drum here
Right.
and then bring that guitar part in over there,
Yeah.
I love that idea. Yeah, that's what I meant.
That's what I meant,
Right?
yeah.
Right.
Well,
and then he'd want it. So you had to make him think it was his idea.
Totally, man. And the other thing that I did, some of them, there was one scene that actors had a different idea of what they thought it should be. And so, you always start with the wide shot. And so, man, I just let them blow all their steam off in the wide shot. And then when I went in the close-up, I got what I wanted.
There you go. You
So-
go. Well, we're out of time again.
What?
Can you believe that? It's the fastest 24 minutes gone.
It's crazy, man.
It's just crazy. Hey, I've really enjoyed this. I've enjoyed
Absolutely.
talking about filmmaking. I want to encourage everybody to support this movie, Beautifully Broken. Compassion International plays a really big part in this movie, and if you're a supporter of that ministry, go see this movie. It really you will really connect with this if that's kind of your heart. But a great story, beautiful story of redemption in theaters now, and you can get more info on beautifullybrokenmovie.com.
Yeah.
And Eric, man, I love this. Thanks for being part of the show.
Absolutely, thank you. And even if you're not a Compassion supporter, there's a character in this film I think you'll find relatable. I think that's a true thing. Is that a true statement?
Yes. And, obviously, anyone, you don't have to be a Compassion supporter to like it, but it will, if you are a Compassion supporter, you're going to love it.
If you have kids, you will definitely relate. If you're a teenager, you will feel the pain.
Yes. If you breathe oxygen, you will love this movie.
I know that feels generic, but it's so true with three families. Like, they're literally characters that people can connect to.
Well, man, I had a great time. Thanks for being on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you.
If there's a show you've missed, you can go to my website, rickaltizer.com, and catch up. Or you can listen to my podcast in iTunes or wherever you hear your podcasts. Just search for The Rick Altizer Show. We'll talk to you next week. Thanks for listening.